Good morning to you. Marcus Conte reporting. Good morning. Whoever, what's the saying? The early bird gets the big worm. I don't like that idea. I think that the early bird should become a vegetarian. So, Marcus Conte reporting today, my fellow Americans, I stand before you, ready to support the next President of the United States, Bernie Sanders. I do. So, Marcus Conte reporting on the prospect of Bernie Sanders sweeping the first four contests: Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, and South Carolina. Right? Today I'm unapologetic. I'm unapologetically Bernie Sanders. We'll get the negatives out of the way. Yes, Bernie Sanders supported Russiagate. Yes, Bernie Sanders supports impeachment. Yes, Bernie Sanders is most likely wrong on immigration in America. And yes, Bernie Sanders is not as liberal in terms of the Second Amendment as others. Right? Yes, Bernie Sanders is 78. Yes, Bernie Sanders had a heart attack a few months ago. Right? Okay, so those are the negatives. Yes, Bernie Sanders has 3 houses. Yes, Bernie Sanders is his wife was stuck in a fake bullshit lawsuit. What else? Okay. Yes, Bernie Sanders bowed his knee to Hillary Clinton and they greased his ass and fucked him. I know all that stuff. Right? Now that that's all said and done and buried, I have what I believe is evidence that the tide is now turning in favor of Sanders, because it's what I've always said, that there is no candidate that can beat Trump other than Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders on the stage with Trump, Bernie Sanders wins. And that's not just my assessment. That's the assessment of people that actually follow this sort of thing. Besides myself. But I am I've become such a brilliant political commentator. I guess that's what I got to start calling myself now. I'm a Marcus Conte, political commentator. People come to my channel to find out what's happening in the world of politics as I walk around and I survey the squirrels. Here's 4 of them. Hey guys. Hey squirrels, what's going on? I got a big mouth for early in the morning. They took off. So, and true crime. Oh, we're doing so great on true crime, man. We are catching the bad guys. They are scattering like cockroaches. Look at them. You know who I'm talking about. We got them on the ropes. The trolls, the LARPs, the fake lawyers, the fake fucking scam artists, the extortionists. We got them, man. Oh boy, did we got them. So I stand before you today as a proud Bernie booster, Bernie Sanders booster. I am always really, maybe for a very brief time I was anti-Sanders, but I am Bernie or bust. And, never still Sanders. I still am. Yeah. So here's an article that is quite revealing. This is a Politico article talking about Democratic insiders. Bernie Sanders could win the nomination. Now, again, the first few contests, 3 out of 4, are caucuses. Caucuses with the cock, right? And that means that the vote is out in the open where you could see it, right? People gather and they vote. And that's called a caucus, right? And you could see people raise their hand and you could count and say, oh yeah, look, fucking everybody's voting for Bernie. And they can't cheat. They can cheat, but it's a lot harder. So the bottom line is that as we enter the February season, the 4 preliminary caucuses the first 4 contests, Bernie Sanders is poised to win. That's right. Bernie Sanders has the best ground game. He has the most money. He has the most support. He has young voters, right? And the other aspect I want to talk about is the split between Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. I suspect that there is a deal in the making. I do, because that would be the best thing to do for Bernie and Elizabeth Warren to get together. So let me read this article, parts of it anyway. His resilience in the primary has caught the attention of the party establishment. That's how it starts out. Now, here's the deal. There is an establishment and there is a voting bloc. That's the people, the 99%, and the 1% donor class, right? And, right, so there's a donor class, 1% of the population, has more weight than the 99% of the voters. Now, if that doesn't make you sick, if that doesn't make you scratch your fucking head, then I don't know what would. But nonetheless, the donor class has an enormous influence on our election. And it does seem that now there is talk in the background that Bernie Sanders, they're now faced with the idea that, do we want the Democratic Party to be in control with a Bernie Sanders, or do we want 4 more years of Trump? Because that's now what they're faced with. And I've always said that they'd rather have four more years of Trump. But I don't know. I could be wrong in that assessment. Do they just want to win? If they just want to win, then they can win with Bernie Sanders. So just to remember, in 2016, Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders ran 49% to 49%, dead even in Iowa, and they leaned it in, a 0.5% for Hillary Clinton for the victory. Not a big deal, almost even. Then in New Hampshire, Bernie Sanders crushed Hillary Clinton by 22 points, right? Crushed her. Then we moved on to Nevada, and Hillary Clinton won 52-47. South Carolina, Hillary Clinton in the Deep South won 73-27. But that was then when Bernie Sanders had no name recognition. He was just some weird senator from Vermont. Nobody knew who he was going into the primary. Now is a different goddamn story. Everybody knows Bernie Sanders. Totally different story. So Bernie Sanders is the clear front runner to sweep Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, and South Carolina. So for months, the Vermont senator was written off by Democratic insiders as a candidate with a committed but narrow base who was so far left to win the primary. Elizabeth Warren had skyrocketed in the polls and seemed to be leaving him behind in a race to be progressive voters' standard bearer in 2020. Right? But in the past week, something has changed. In private conversations and on social media, Democratic officials, political operatives, and pundits are reconsidering Bernie Sanders' chances. Now again, this is Politico. This is an establishment rag saying this. It's important, right? Because they're not just going to say it if there isn't some kind of agenda attached to it. Right? So they're very concerned now that the Stop Bernie movement is not there. They can't find it in the bowels of the investors, the investor class, right? So it may have been inevitable, and eventually you would have 2 candidates representing each sides of the ideological party, says David Brock, right? That's a Hillary Clinton troll, right? He's predicting that it would be Biden and Sanders running neck and neck. Well, yeah, Biden is the establishment pick, and Bernie Sanders is the pick of the people, right? In a caucus, the people win. In a rigged primary on Super Tuesday in California, for example, that's where the establishment will cheat. So Bernie will sweep all 4 in February, then they'll rig the machines for Super Tuesday in March 3rd, and they'll turn around and say, see, you see, we were right. The polls were right all along. Bernie Sanders is not as popular as you think. Now suck it up. Suck it up and vote for fucking Biden. Vote for the shit sandwich. God damn it. That's what they'll do. The big cheat will not come in the caucuses. The revelation that Bernie Sanders is the favorite will come in the caucuses in the first 4 contests. And then the big cheat, if we allow it to happen, will come on Super Tuesday, where 40% of the vote will be determined. So, Democratic insiders say they are rethinking Sanders' bid for a few reasons. First, Warren was recently falling in the national and early state polls. Second, Sanders has withstood ups and downs in the primary, including a heart attack. At the same time, other candidates like Kamala Harris and Cory Booker have dropped out. Dan Plouffe, that was Obama's guy, said we could build a real head of steam. He could build a real head of steam heading into South Carolina and Super Tuesday. So Plouffe is saying it. Who else? David Brock, the ultimate fucking guy, right? He has his finger on the pulse of the donors, David Brock, right? And what he's basically saying is, at the beginning of the year, another high point for Sanders' campaign before Warren surged, some establishment Democrats talked about how to stop his momentum. Right? This is what they're talking about at the donor meetings. Oh, fucking Bernie Sanders is popular. How are we going to stop him? Not, he's a Democrat. How are we going to make him win? How are we going to stop him? Right? Just like they did to Trump. Right? So Brock, who has a close relationship with many Democratic donors, said he has not heard anything like that in recent weeks. That doesn't mean it won't happen. This is more of an analysis of the political world than the donor world. Right? He's saying that what we're talking about is the political world where that people actually vote. But the donor world is something totally different, where $1 billion can swing an election. So it's a good read, and he talks about the article talks about David Axelrod also saying he's actually picking up steam, Sanders. And the fact is, Bernie is consistent as consistent can be. MSNBC, Steve Kornacki said Democratic voters like him, and he is starting to win. It's all bullshit. He is the winner. He is the front runner. But what they're doing is they're now starting to cover their trails. Californians and Americans in general like options, not mandate. That's a contradictory opinion. All right, so let me put this article away because my fingers are freezing over here. God damn it. So, Marcus Conte reporting on Bernie Sanders. Excuse me. So I had a dream. That Bernie Sanders was standing on the White House steps. You know when they do that outside? Or is it it's Congress where they hold the presidential inauguration? Is that Congress? I don't even know. I think it's the White House. Right. And Bernie Sanders is standing there. I don't care if he's in a fucking wheelchair by then and he's old and it doesn't matter. You could wheel Bernie Sanders out on a wheelchair, I'll still vote for him. Right. Income and wealth inequality in this country is ridiculous. Right. It's unsustainable. A rocketing stock market that is not benefiting the regular people is not a booming economy. It's a bubble that's benefiting 1% that want to keep it going. They're living large. Grotesque income and wealth inequality in this country, lack of a universal single-payer healthcare system, money in politics, deep-seated corruption at the deep state level, at the representative level, more so than deep state, is that all your representatives are on the take. You have to change that. You have to fundamentally change the system if you want change in this country. If you like the way things are, then this is not your discussion. If you think everything is cool and you know, it's capitalism and Trump is my guy, then there's nothing in the world that I could say to you to change you, and I don't really care to change you. But what I am saying is that in this reporter's view, in the 2 or 3, I don't know how many years I've been doing this, it is my view that the absolute best possible outcome for the 2020 election is to elect Bernie Sanders the President of the United States and have him pick a candidate of, by, and for the people. That is my opinion. Because from there, even if he doesn't make it a second term, he's laid the foundation for, instead of having Steve Mnuchin as your, you know, Goldman Sachs Steve Mnuchin under Trump as your Treasury Secretary ripping the fucking country off, he'll pick somebody like an honest Andrew Yang. Or instead of a corrupt liar like Mike Pompeo running the State Department, he'll pick an honest broker like a Tulsi Gabbard. Instead of a talking head mouthpiece that sits around with Trump's cock in his mouth as Vice President Pence, he'll have an actual thinking mind that could step into the presidency, Elizabeth Warren. All right. So Bernie Sanders could set it up. And on that note with Elizabeth Warren, I don't like her for the first seat. I don't like her as the president. I don't think that she would win, and I don't think that she has the raw talent to compete with Trump. I do think Bernie Sanders has that raw talent because he showed he had it. He was drawing huge crowds in 2016, and he's still doing it, but he doesn't really have to because he already has the ground game, right? So here's the math, right? Here's the math. The fake polls, even if we were to consider the fake polls real, they're putting Biden at 28 or 29% of the vote. And they're giving Sanders 20 and Elizabeth Warren 18 or 20, give or take, right? When you add up Sanders and Warren, you have more than 50% of the Democratic Party in your pocket, right? And that's the progressive side. See, the Democrats can't win with a corporate pick because the progressive wing, all of those people, all the Bernie people and all the Elizabeth Warren people say, no, they're corrupt. We are not going to vote for them because they are corrupt. We'd rather stick with Trump and let Trump burn the fucker to the ground. And then in 2024, when the millennials are of age, they'll try to stick in Ocasio-Cortez or some fucking other idiot. All right, so they're not with you is the point. There is no sign on the ground that the progressive wing, the independents that support Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, would break for Joe Biden. There's no evidence of that. All of the evidence to the contrary. Now, there is evidence that if the Democrats support the pick, that the Bernie Sanders pick, that all of the establishment will fall in line. Is there evidence of that? Yes, there is, because that's what the establishment does. They fall in line. They say, oh, here's Bernie. They don't even know the issue. Well, Bernie Sanders, he's our guy. All right, so let's vote for Bernie Sanders. Right? That's what they do. So, mathematically, the Democrats have no path to the White House with Biden. The only path they have to the White House is a combination of Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren putting their heads together. Now, is that a possibility? Of course it is. Of course it is. Maybe that's been the plan. You see Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren chopping each other up? No. No, they don't. They're one. So So that's where you have it. Remember, the Democrats will only cheat if they're trying to stop you. They'll cheat against you to stop you, but they'll also cheat for you to win. Like they tried with Hillary Clinton. And it worked in the primary, but it failed in the general election because the Republicans cheat too. So, what I'm trying to say in this video 20 minutes later is that Bernie Sanders is poised to win despite what any poll says, despite what any talking head on TV says. Bernie Sanders is poised to win Iowa and New Hampshire, quite possibly Nevada. And if he wins South Carolina, that's the biggest tell that he's taken away the black vote from Biden. Now, South Carolina doesn't really matter because South Carolina is a Republican bloc. It's not going to go blue anyway, so it doesn't really indicate anything. That's remember when Hillary Clinton in the primaries of 2016, she swept the Deep South. And all the talking heads said, see, Hillary Clinton, she's the shit. But the Deep South doesn't break for the Democrats in the general election anyway, so it doesn't matter. Right? A Democrat is going to win New York, California, Oregon, Washington. He's going to win the whole perimeter, all the blue states, right? And the fight is over the swing states. North Carolina, Florida, and the Rust Belt. The Rust Belt, Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania. You don't think that if you put Bernie Sanders on the stage, God, a fucking vision, oh my God, it brings a tear to my eye. You put a Bernie Sanders on the stage next to Trump, the fake populist. And and Bernie says, we're going to get money out of politics. We're going to stop people like you from hurting people that are watching this. We're going to stop you, Trump. You fuck. You fucking billionaire scumbag. What a great show that would be. And you don't think that the people, the smart people in Ohio and Michigan, the working class people of America, that it's not going to resonate when you say stop corruption, and Bernie says, yeah, we'll get the money out of politics to prevent idiots like you from buying elections. Fucking like Sparta comes alive. That's the winning formula. It always has been, and it always will be. Now you can say whatever you want in this thread, comment as you will below. If you insult me personally, I delete your name. And if you insult Bernie Sanders, if you use the word communism and socialism, and he's a socialist and all that bullshit, I'm just going to delete your shit. Because it's not true. And I'm not going to allow people to keep coming on this thread, coming on my channel, my page, and smearing Bernie Sanders with the same 5 lies. I'm not having it. Right? If you want to do that, go somewhere else and do it. If you want to make a poignant, argument for Trump based on the facts, then I'm listening. I'll listen to that. But don't come here and lie, man. It's too far gone for all that. Hold on a second. It's actually kind of nice in New York right now. It's about 40 degrees. And see the bridge? See where I am? I'm literally right under the Verrazano Bridge over here. That's my bridge. That's my bridge. They put up some fences to keep people jumping off. I think this is the second highest suicide rate bridge next to San Francisco. It's 259 feet. 54 feet right in the middle at the highest part. Up there is 700 feet, but you can't get up there. But here you could drive your car, park, and jump off the bridge, and you'll have a nice trip straight to hell. It's like hitting cement. But they put up fences up there to keep people from jumping. I haven't seen them yet. I'd like to see them. I don't know. It's a scary thing. You know, I talked about it the other day. It's a scary thing when you have a very high suicide rate like that and you can't figure out why. So Marcus Conte reporting. Thanks for watching. Kindly become a Patreon. I want to do a GoFundMe account soon to raise money to go to the Democratic National Convention that's going to be in Milwaukee, Wisconsin in July of 2020. Trying to put together, I am going to put together a GoFundMe to make that happen. I'll be there for hopefully 4 days and see the whole thing and report on it for whatever it's worth. We'll get to see a hands-on thing. And become a Patreon. This is how we do it here. You know, I got all kinds of trolls trying to shut me down and shut me up and you know, and all this bullshit, and I'm still here and I ain't going anywhere. Do I look like I'm getting tired, by the way? People said, "Oh, Conte, the trolls are gonna get you." Do I look like I'm getting tired? Do I look like a guy who really gives a fuck about what a bunch of idiots say and do? No. I think it becomes interesting to watch it and then expose it, because that's 20% of what I do, which is exposing true crime, and it is a crime. It is a crime when you're deliberately harassing people in the comments, harassing content creators. So we'll continue to do that. So become a Patreon of the channel and do that. Also, at the end of the year, this channel, if you're watching this on Marcus Conte, I'm going to stop putting videos here. And I'm going to move everything over to Marcus Conte News. So go down into the box below and subscribe to Marcus Conte News. If you're watching this on Marcus Conte News, then you have nothing to worry about. Like, share, subscribe. We're still not over 1,000 subscribers, so I need to get to 1,000 subscribers so the channel will be monetized. So please do that, share and like. And, you know, so that's where we're at right now. That's where we're at. Bernie Sanders, Iowa, New Hampshire. And if he wins, that is the tell. America is with Bernie Sanders. America is behind this man that can bring a new deal to America. Right? And all the noise and all the negativity, he's Hillary Clinton's errand boy and all that bullshit, will all subside. Bernie Sanders is tried and true, 40-year career of fighting for people. That's not going to change when he takes the White House. It's not going to change. He's just going to double down and say, okay, let's get to work. Let's actually do it. Let's do universal single-payer health care. Congress is going to say, no, we can't do it. Fuck you, we're doing it. Right? Money out of politics. Overthrow Citizens United. Constitutional amendment to take money out of politics. Congress is going to say, no, we can't do it. No, we can't do it. Fuck you, we're doing it. That's what Bernie Sanders is going to do, man. Don't you get it? Don't you get it, America? Wake the fuck up. This is your last chance. This is your last chance, because after this, if Sanders doesn't get the nod, then you got 4 more years of Trump, and that market's going to go up, and your money's going to go down, and the country's going to implode at some point, and the billionaires are going to keep looting the country, and that's what you're going to get. And then after that, 2024, wow, you're going to get Trump trying to promote one of his kids to the presidency. You're going to get some schmuck like Ocasio-Cortez, as if it even matters at that point. The no health care in this country. That's what you're going to get. This is your opportunity, America. This is your opportunity. To the Trump people, think about it. To the people that are undecided, vote for Bernie Sanders. Support Bernie Sanders. Get behind the message of Bernie Sanders, democratic socialism. Marcus Conte reporting.